going, so they'll see if he can stay hot and look to get some teammates involved as well.
Taking a look at our starting lineups, Yogi Ferrell, someone who has over 250 NBA games of experience, trying to be a leader for this Salt Lake City team. And on the flip side, for Iowa, Alonzo Trier averaging 22 points per game, the former Arizona Wildcat. Inside the fieldhouse, ready to go for tip. Salt Lake City in the blue, Iowa in the white. We are underway. And Kim, Iowa's got unfinished business, dropping a close one to Agua Caliente after leading by 20.
Right, and they had a big lead even going into that fourth quarter. And we were talking, John, in these opening few days of this bubble season, we've seen a lot of teams give up some leads late. So now we'll start to see a couple days in, can teams be a little bit more disciplined with closing games.
Paul White just starts right where he left off. Now a deflection. This is something that Salt Lake City's focusing on. Nathan Peavy feels like they have not defended to their full abilities. Pull-up three is short. And we've got a foul here on the Stars, Trey Scott.
But yeah, John, they're focused on the defensive end. Yogi Ferrell, after their last loss, you know, one of the leaders of this team who's had a couple years of NBA experience, he said, we have to have pride in guarding. We have to fight the entire game.
Sam Newman-Beck, coach of Iowa in his second season. Someone who exemplifies just rising up the ladder. Three off, here comes Salt Lake City. Stars offense struggling against Oklahoma City earlier this week, just an 84-point showing. White thought about it. Here's Ferrell. 16.5 points per game thus far, gets it off to Scott. Ferrell from distance.
Iowa really just locking down the perimeter there, John, not allowing ball handlers to get inside the paint.
Paul White with some defense. Return to sender for Cook. On the flip side, Trey Scott finishes. Scott is a really intriguing rookie here in the bubble. Was the American Athletic Conference Defensive Player of the Year last season at Cincinnati.
Yeah, Trey Scott also the most improved player in addition to that in the American Conference. So somebody that has a lot of upside and has developed his game from year to year.
Canyon Berry feeling very comfortable in the bubble. Former Florida Gator. Handoff action to Malcolm Miller. Steamrolls his way. And it's an offensive foul here. Looks like it is. Now Miller not agreeing with it. Here's a look at Nathan Peavy. First season as the head coach of Salt Lake City and taking over for Martin Schiller, who was the G League Coach of the Year last season. This Salt Lake City organization, 30-12. They were truly one of the highlights of last year's campaign, and now Peavy says he wants to try to carry that success into this year. Drive in the bucket, just in and out. Got a point-blank look. That was halfway down for Cheatham. Mike Scott with a move, but he's short on that runner. Both teams with a bit of a slow offensive start.
That has been the case for them in their early games, John. It's just trying to find a little bit of a rhythm for the Wolves. They've had a lot of adversity early in this bubble season. They've been without 5 of their players. There's a little offense for Salt Lake City. But for the Wolves, they had to play their first 2 games without 5 players due to health and safety protocol violations. So they're still trying to find some rhythm. They haven't really practiced together much.
Another stop for the Stars. That defense has set the tone. Here's Farrell with the give. Off to Scott. It's good. Sharp start for Mike Scott and the Stars.
Right, and you see the playmaking from Yogi Farrell, who we mentioned has had NBA experience for 4 years now, and he has good recognition of knowing when it's his time to score and when it's his time to make a play, and that time he made that right read.
Yogi Farrell was a star at Indiana. They're taking a look at this and discussing. It was a jump ball that was called. And now they've changed it, came to an inverted whistle, which seems like a much more appropriate call, considering it never really looked like a tie up there.
Right. Correct overrule.
When you've gotten off to an 0-2 start, both these teams have, how do you try to refresh the memory and not let it define you?
Right, well, I think the first thing is just bringing energy to the game and trying to get some confidence early. Sometimes just seeing the ball go through the net like it is now for Salt Lake City can just kind of pick the spirits back up. But a lot of times you have to build that energy on the defensive end and just make some momentum plays to kind of build your teammates up.
Well, this is a much better start for the Stars. 5 different players have scored for them. They're spreading the love, and they come up with another defensive stop and now look to run. Farrell pulls. He hits that, Kim. I think we see a Wolves timeout. Now fancy maneuverability. It falls with the foul. Tyler Cook, the big man, has handles.
And we mentioned him off the top, John. He's really been showcasing an array of skills, somebody who can play inside and out, handle the ball. That time making his move when the defender was in the arc already, so drawing that foul. But yeah, I mean, we mentioned his numbers off the top. He has just played 2 really well-rounded games and impacted the stat sheet in many different ways.
Cook 3 for 6 from the line against Agua Caliente, the Wolves' most recent game. Tyler Cook is feeling right at home. There's just something about Iowa for someone who's a native of St. Louis, Missouri, because he played his college hoops for the Hawkeyes, led them to the NCAA tournament, and now coming back to where he just loves to hoop and having success with the Wolves.
Right, he got a couple Iowa ties on this team. His teammate Lindell Wigington, Iowa State, so they've maybe had to put that rivalry aside a little bit as they're now teammates.
That's one of the good ones. Scott can't hit, offensive board. Rejection at the 10. Zylan Cheatham rose up there and denied it. Wigington into Cook. A rare Cyclone to Hawkeye connection. Back to Wigington from Cook. Got an open look.
It was a great read by Tyler Cook, who recognized the defense collapsed on him. So his teammates are going to have to be ready to be in a shot-ready position because he will kick it out.
Well, the Wolves, 2 for 11 to start. Coming off a game in which they started so hot against Agua Caliente. They're looking to regain that rhythm that they had. And then, once we're set and done with the 25 days of this regular season, a single elimination playoff with 8 teams. Pull up 3 out of the timeout. Iowa's cold shooting continues. Charlie Brown Jr. on the all-name team in the G League. The St. Joseph's product.
Big 5, Philly represent. But yeah, Iowa's 2 of 12 to start this game, John. So you have to get some easier looks, get some steals, get out in transition, try and get to the free throw line a little bit.
You can sense the intensity from Zylan Cheatham. And that's what he was at Arizona State. Bobby Hurley, his coach would often call him the guy who just motors his team defensively. And you can sense Iowa, after just a heartbreaking loss in game 2 of their season, looking to turn it back on, Kim. And that's that dynamic, right? You were up big, you lose a lead like that, then you have to come back, quick turnaround, and try to find what you had. And teardrop goes.
Right, and it's been both games for them, John, have been tight. And both of their losses have been by a combined 5 points. In the first game, it was actually the reverse. They were down big and came back, and then last night they gave up a big lead. So we mentioned kind of the early adversity and still trying to figure out some chemistry as new pieces are coming in and out, but it all starts by kind of committing on this end first defensively.
Here's Farrell looking to create some space. Fades and can't hit. Cook with the board. They give it away just as Cheatham was starting to set himself up. It's a 4-on-2 and a foul is called, and that's a situation where it's a good foul.
Right, that was just a miscommunication. 2 teammates on the other end, but Alonzo Trier, somebody who has really shown the ability to be able to get a bucket as he does there. And he's had 2 good years with the New York Knicks before being waived a few months ago. So he's a player that's down here trying to prove that he still deserves a place in the league. But really the offensive firepower, if they're going to get back on track, is going to need to come from him.
Trayvon Blewett shooting 1 free throw for 2 points, but Paul White.
And that was a huge area that Iowa needed to work on coming from last night's game. They gave up a ton of offensive rebounds late in that game against Agua Caliente. So that has to be a big commitment in this game to locate and box out, especially on a free throw.
It was Tyler Bay on the putback. Beg your pardon, not Paul White, and it will stay here with 6 on the timer. Kari Tucker has checked in, seeing his first action in the bubble. They give it away. Farrell off the catch. Extra pass to Blewett, who's just checked in. Trayvon Blewett drawing the blocking foul.
You're just seeing some really good ball movement right now from Salt Lake City, who, as we mentioned, just has really struggled offensively in these first 2. So we're seeing the ball move quicker. We're seeing some penetration, forcing the defense to react, and that's why they've gotten off to a hotter start than they've seen in their opening 2 games.
Talking to Salt Lake City head coach Nathan Peavy, said we've got to focus on having an attacking mindset. Is the take here. And goaltending is called. They'll count this.
Yeah, they're going to rule that was on its way down a little bit, or not allowing its path to the basket.
Nearly fell, but just rims out that time for Murphy. Sends Jordan Murphy to the line, former Minnesota Gopher, for Richard Pitino.
On the line for the Wolves, Jordan Murphy.
Yeah, John, what stood out to me about Jordan Murphy, taking a look at some of his numbers, at 6'6", in his senior year, he averaged 11 rebounds per game and ended up 2nd all-time in rebounds for the Big Ten as kind of an undersized forward. So he is somebody who just attacks the glass relentlessly.
He really does. He was a standout for the Northern Arizona Suns last year. Had a big 24-point game that caught the eyes around the G League, and actually was planning on playing in Israel. But now here in the bubble, looking to make the most of his opportunity. Pull-up 3 is good for Iowa. Ade Murkey.
Murkey making his bubble debut. He was one of those couple players that had to do some extra quarantining after the league felt they violated a protocol.
Up high, with the jam, and Ade Murkey's making the most of his opportunity. First game in the bubble, 5 straight for Murkey.
Yeah, Murkey's a cool story. Played at Denver, but is a Minnesota native and grew up as a fan of the Timberwolves. So this is pretty much a dream opportunity for him, John.
Man, Yogi Ferrell, silky smooth with the teardrop. Yeah, I mean, you're passionate already about trying to make your dream come true, but then you get to do it as part of the organization that you grew up as a fan of. The script, it writes itself there for Murkey. And Ade Murkey, his debut in the bubble. For the Wolves, they're back now into the pool of players, but the hope for both of them with what they showed is that they can get their chance potentially elsewhere.
Right, and they didn't know they were joining the team until the day of the first game. So what they came in and were able to do on a couple hours' notice was pretty incredible as Romaro Gill knocks it in. But I was a little, it kind of broke my heart a little bit reading that news this morning that they had been waived. But there are multiple players who are in Orlando following quarantine protocols, living in the bubble, that are ready to go if needed due to injuries, personal reasons. So those two definitely showed out, and I hope they get another opportunity, and I hope some of the other players who are patiently waiting in that bubble pool get a shot as well, because those two came in and were a big part of the games for the Iowa Wolves.
Isaiah Briscoe, 7 points, 7 boards, 5 assists. He played 28 minutes, defended well for this Wolves team. And then you think about Jalen Morris. He was in double figures with 11 and quite efficient. So that's just the circumstance of the situation. You never know when your number's called, as that three is drilled for Mike Scott.
And that's a needed three, John. It's been an ugly start from the outside for both of these teams. Just a combined 3 of 17 from 3.
Mike Scott with 2 triples, the only 2 for the Stars. And Paul White, there's the need for an ice bath after this one.
And Paul White just setting up in good defensive position and just get kneed right in the chest.
That's tough. That looked like it had to hurt Kim.
That's one that just it takes the wind right out of you. But he's staying in the game. He's toughing it out.
Look, the ice baths here in the G League bubble, it's 24/7.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see kind of some of the setups that the teams have been putting out, the outdoor, just kind of some inflatable ice baths. We saw the same with the NBA and WNBA bubbles this summer.
Trayvon Blewett in rhythm. That's what he did as a Xavier Musketeer. One of the all-time scorers there. And he can pack a punch from beyond the arc.
Right, he is a big-time assassin from behind the arc. And he had a great year last year, John, shooting 42% from behind the arc. So they are going to rely on him to continue to knock these down. Over 2,200 points at Xavier. And he is one of the quickest releases I have ever seen a shooter had. He does not need a lot of time. You have to be on him like glue, ready to close out, because he will launch it, and he just has such a pure touch on the release.
College All-American Murphy, denied by Gill, who shut it down. Farrell, extra pass. Paul White, just short here. Chance to go 2 for 1 here. Charlie Brown, a little bit long. And it heads out back to the Stars.
Not sure about that shot, John. You really hadn't tried to get into any sort of offense. That was a contested deep look from 3. If I'm the coach, I'm telling him to let's work the ball around a little bit more and see what kind of a better shot we can get.
Well, and that just goes back to the Wolves and their mindset. Sam Newman back, second-year head coach, talking about, hey, to play 48 minutes, we've got to do those types of things the whole way. Blewett off the dribble, and he'll go in the line. 1 shot for 3 points. Trayvon Blewett finding a bit of a rhythm. You talked about his story, Kim. I think this is also fascinating. Both his parents served in the United States Marines. They fought in Operation Desert Storm in the 1990s and met while they were enlisted in the Marines in the 80s. So he just comes from toughness and from overcoming the odds, being that underdog type of player, someone to watch here going forward.
And they weren't just in the Marines, John. They were both really good basketball players as well.
Yes.
And I believe seeing a feature about Trayvon where he actually gave his mom the credit for how he learned to shoot. So shout out to Mrs. Blewett for teaching him that form.
It's awesome. 4 seconds left here. Wigington with the fade. Now with 2. They need a heave at the buzzer. It's off. And the Salt Lake City Stars, who have been trying to find their offense, well, they found their offense and their defense. John Fanta, Kim Adams with you from the Fieldhouse. Day 4 of the NBA G League bubble season here on ESPN+. Salt Lake City Stars have been a team that struggled a bit offensively. Only 12 assists in the entirety of their most recent loss, but they had 8 in the opening quarter. Trey Scott on the back down. And the Stars keep on shining.
And I think we're seeing a great balance scoring-wise, John. We just saw that inside bucket, and then they've been able to get hot from outside the arc from Trayvon Blewett, and they're just getting a lot of players involved this afternoon.
Now off another stop. Bay gives it back to Farrell. Iowa just 5 for 21 from the field. They have been ice cold. Now Tyler Bay on the back down and works his way to the foul. So Kim, if you're Wolves head coach Sam Newman-Beck, what are you trying to adjust here?
Well, let's just quickly look at Bay here first, who's in his first game with Salt Lake City. He's actually a two-way player with Dallas, started with the Long Island Nets, and actually played against the Wolves, and now is playing against them again in a Salt Lake City jersey. But as for Iowa, John, I'd like to see them get a little bit more disruptive on the defensive end first. They've only forced 2 turnovers for Salt Lake City. Meanwhile, Salt Lake City has gotten 14 points of their own off of forcing turnovers. So I don't think we're seeing any energy on the defensive end from Iowa that would lead them to get some runouts and some easier looks while they're trying to sort out their offensive rhythm.
Now 1 for 10 from 3. Struggling to score, just like you said. You think maybe get some stops. Here's a stop. An opportunity now. In the hands of Wigington. Nice dish off. And a foul is called as Cook went up.
And that time they had a little bit more sense of urgency. It wasn't a primary fast break, but they continued to push the pace a little bit and kept moving the ball as they got up the floor. You see Wigington, nice drive and dish, but that's what they need a little bit more of. You mentioned the 1 for 10 from 3. They've been settling from the outside. I'd like to see them kind of work from the inside out until they really get their legs under them from shooting and just get a little bit more confident with how they play together offensively.
If there's anything that the G League bubble has shown us, it is that. These 4 words. No lead is safe.
Absolutely. I think Iowa was down 20 in the first quarter of their opening game against Long Island. And then they came back and had a chance to win that game. And we mentioned, I mean, we've just seen really a handful of games where big leads have been blown, and we've only been in the bubble for a couple days now. So you can never get too complacent if you're the team that's in front.
I mean, Kim, would you rather be the first one at the party or the one that's fashionably late?
I'm always fashionably late. I mean, no sense of being in the room by yourself waiting for your friends to come in.
Salt Lake City, 55. Coming up tonight, 7 Eastern time, Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, and Ignite. Take on Raptors 9:05. Kim, what has stood out to you about the Ignite thus far?
I think just how they've been able to win games with so much youth talent. I mean, we knew the talent would be there individually, but when you're going up against pros, whether they've played in the G League, whether they've had NBA experience, that's a different type of physicality, a different type of speed to the game. And we've seen these young prospects just come in with so much confidence and not only play well, but to be able to close out and win games thus far.
You know what I think is so special? The thought in mind was with the Ignite team, how could they be able to learn the ropes of the league and understand what it takes to get to that next level? Well, Jared Jack's just writing the next chapter of his career, because this is a guy, Kim, who has just found a way to pave a way throughout his career and has found success and has been a winner. And now he's showing Kuminga, Green, and these other young players just what it takes. And that mentorship, that's really, really special.
Right, and you know, you talk about the decision these kids made, and I think they all made the right decision. This program that has been launched by the G League this year, I think is incredible in terms of getting a mentor like that, having phenomenal coaching. And then, you know, they're putting these kids through finance training, media training. They are fully preparing them for a life in the NBA, and there's so much more to that than what just happens on the basketball court. So I think this is a program that is going to continue to take off, and we're going to see more and more top prospects going this route.
Basketball and so much more than that. We've seen the NBA over the last year, in a year that's been so challenging and has featured, you know, just many different obstacles. The association has fought the social injustice in our world and the systemic racism in our world, and has put that at the front of the table. And the league, it deserves so much credit for finding ways to create positive change in our world. Point game here. Iowa's shown that they are capable of coming back early on in the bubble. There's a nice dish inside, and the finish was Island Cheatham.
John, we've seen any time that Iowa puts a little bit more pace to their game, they've been able to find pockets to score rather than getting a rebound and walking it up. So that time was another time where they just had some action, some movement going, and forcing Salt Lake City to work a little bit more defensively.
You think about the fact that we are not even 15 minutes into this game. It's an 18-point game, but Kim, Iowa has to have a stretch of some better offensive basketball ahead. They've shot just over 26%, and they're 1 for 11 from three. That can't continue.
Right. You hope that they've kind of adapted and made some adjustments and timeouts, and I think we are seeing more of an attack mode here down these past couple of trips. And it's not to say you can't take a three, but you want to take the right threes, a three that's in rhythm, that's off of drive and penetration, that's uncontested. So we're seeing them attack a little bit more, which ultimately will open up for better looks from the outside.
6'5" Alonzo Trier finishing at the 10, and the lead down to 16. Here's Paul White. Talked about him at the outset. As a big man who can do a lot of different things. Now 3 on the timer for Scott, who heaves that one way off. Blew it with the offensive board.
That's another thing you can't do, John, if you're down big. Just give up second and third opportunities. They need to start boxing out and rebounding.
And now a third opportunity for it, and the foul for Paul White, who's been in beast mode.
And yeah, we're just seeing Salt Lake City outwork the Wolves on the glass right now. 3 opportunities. You see 12 in White there, just instead of boxing out, he just goes for the rebound. Trier has to box out first, even if you're a guard, because I get, you know, a lot of times he's out on the perimeter. But Alonzo Trier, if you are down there and you're undersized, then going up against a 6'9" forward, you can't just let him out jump you. You have to get into his body and push him out, and then at worst, you'll either get the rebound or you'll get in over the back.
Nathan Peavy and one of his star guards, Yogi Ferrell, talked after the blowout loss to Oklahoma City. They used the word pride as that 3 drops for the Wolves. Trier starting to catch fire, 7 points. The Kim, they use that word pride. You take 2 blowout losses, the Stars are playing with some pride here.
Right. And I think really, like you said, that pride always begins on the defensive end and really connecting as a team and relying on your teammates to know that if you get beat, someone's there to help you out. And they have displayed much more toughness on this end of the floor than they did in their first 2 games.
With the kick. Penetration and a Euro step, but they lose it. Here come the Stars off the turnover. Blewett was trailing, and now he hits. Trayvon Blewett is sizzling in the bubble. He's got 9.
That is textbook Trayvon right there. And that's one of the best opportunities to get a 3 is when you are the trailer on the break, because you're almost forgotten about a lot of the time. And it was a great read by his teammate to kick back to him.
Trier way off on the 3. Iowa 2 for 13 from beyond the arc. Blewett. Trayvon Blewett is en fuego. His 3rd 3. And Sam Newman-Beck just needs to try to cool him off. He calls a timeout. The former Xavier Musketeer. Kevin Porter Jr. is a really intriguing player in the bubble as he pulls him short on that 3, because he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers, ends up getting sent to Houston, and now in the G League bubble trying to show the Rockets organization that he can perform for them.
Right, and you have, a couple different paths of players who are in this bubble. You have players who have been in the league and now kind of have a little chip on their shoulder, like a player in this game, Yogi Ferrell, Alonzo Trier. Players who have had success at that level and for one reason or another were waived, and they are here to try and prove a point that they still belong in the league.
Trey Scott couldn't hit. 24-point game here inside the field house, and boy, did Iowa need that.
They're starting to find a little bit more offensive rhythm, but some of the 3s we've been seeing them take have been better looks now. That one was in rhythm with their transition break.
Romaro Gill fouled on the catch. You talk about different paths, Ken. Romaro Gill did not start playing organized basketball until 2015. He's a native of Jamaica, started at Vincennes College, and then a JUCO transfer into Seton Hall University, where he becomes the Big East defensive and most improved player last year.
He is one of the most incredible paths of a player I've read. And John, I think it's just crazy because you mentioned the year he started playing basketball, but that was his senior year of high school. And the only reason he even started playing is because that was the very first year they offered a team. He had been playing cricket and soccer. And finally his school was like, let's start a basketball team. He's 7'2". Okay, I'll give that a shot in my senior year. And I'd say it's worked out pretty well for him, but it just shows just how much more room he still has to grow. He's only been playing for a couple of years.
Remarkable. Incredible talent as Ferrell catches and fires. Yogi Ferrell from distance with a fist pump to boot.
And this team is just flowing offensively right now, John. 11 assists. They are just moving the ball and creating looks for their teammates.
Jordan Murphy with the answer. Well, Salt Lake City's just letting all their frustrations out right now. Trayvon Blewett has been a catalyst to it. Rare miss for Blewett here.
And he gets his own rebound. He could tell when it's going to be off. He ran in for that rebound right away.
Got way off. Well, here's the other side of it. Kim, you played in Penn and know those back-to-backs in the Ivy League and just the waves of basketball. Sometimes when you've lost games, 2 games by a combined 5 points, it can wear on you a little bit.
Right, and especially because, as we mentioned, the Wolves had only 8 active players in those first 2 games. So you got to think, legs have to be a little bit tired. And on top of that, most of these guys haven't played in nearly a year. So there's just a bunch of factors kind of playing in here. But at the end of the day, everyone's kind of been in that same boat. And you're here for 3 weeks And you just have to come out with energy, intensity, and confidence every day. So we'll see if the Wolves can start to turn a little bit of a page here, almost heading into halftime.
Tough pull up, and the friendly bounce for Trey Scott in the foul.
Trey Scott at 6'8", rookie out of Cincinnati. Just somebody else, actually a similar path to Romaro Giljohn. Both of them as seniors were the most improved players and the defensive player of the year in their respective conferences. So you have two big guys on this team who just have so much untapped potential. And Trey Scott has really shown out here, and somebody who just improved year over year during his 4 years at Cincinnati.
Originally recruited by Mick Cronin, who's now the head coach at UCLA.
And Trey Scott actually has two sisters,
yeah,
twins, Jada and Jaden, who are currently sophomores on the Cincinnati women's basketball team. So that's really cool. They're keeping it all in the family with the Scotts at Cincinnati.
The Scotts can hoop. I'd like to see a game of 21 in the backyard between Jada, Jaden, Trey. That'd be a lot of fun.
I can tell you as somebody who grew up with a brother who is quite a bit taller than me, those games can get pretty heated.
Canyon Berry from the corner knocks it down.
I was 2 years older, but there came a point where he just skyrocketed past me and grew to 6'6", so me being about 5'9", we had some battles. So
you better have your jumper ready. You better have your jumper ready then.
Absolutely.
I know you got the kicks, K.A. Got a foul inside Murphy.
Here's some nice ball movement. We talk about just getting some better looks for Iowa. That was a great possession. You know, they got inside the paint with a paint touch. Murphy, good decision to kick back out, and a couple extra passes around to Canyon Berry.
2 minutes to go in this first half. It has been dictated by Salt Lake City. Both these teams looking for their first win, and perhaps that can get Iowa starting. Charlie Brown Jr. from deep.
Yeah, Charlie Brown Jr. is somebody I'm interested to watch here in the bubble. This is his first game after having to do those extra quarantines, but he was out of St. Joe's, played 2 years there before heading pro, but he put up 1,000 points in just 2 seasons. So he is somebody who can be a high volume scorer and just kind of has that NBA body, a long, lanky guard at 6'6". So Charlie Brown Jr., somebody I'm keeping my eyes on in this G League bubble.
Tyler Cook has had such a strong start to the bubble, but 5 points, 5 rebounds, only 1 made field goal. Got to change if Iowa's going to storm back in this game.
Yeah, Salt Lake City has just been more disciplined defensively in taking away players' strengths, and right now they've had the advantage on the interior on both ends of the floor.
Blewett has had a hot hand. Farrell asking for a screen with 7. Feeds it off to White, who drains it.
And Yogi Ferrell, again, showing his ability to make the right reads, which is why he has had NBA experience for 4 years. Drawing that screen, like you said, he called for it, but knowing that it's not necessarily his shot, making the right read when the defense collapses on him and finding an open teammate.
There's that whole idea of trusting in your instincts, even when you might be going back and forth, you've had your time in the NBA. Can you still trust yourself on a stage like this? And you just brought it up with Farrell, he does. Now they force a turnover. Blew it. Off to Mike Scott. The Salt Lake City Stars have been dominant.
And we're not seeing an effort defensively right now from Iowa. Nobody getting back in transition, locating a shooter. That has to change in the second half.
The ninth, Stars 3. Now 3 seconds for Wigington. Wigington kicks. Barry at the buzzer. And that does it for the first half. The Salt Lake City Stars, Mike Scott, 4 for 4 from 3. Story, he was an assistant with the Erie Bayhawks before getting this job, and when talking with the Timberwolves organization, they've talked about his ability to really connect with the young players. He is someone whose work goes beyond basketball as well. He actually has a great charity that supports youth activities in Massachusetts. It's called Hoops and Hope, honoring Medford's youth. So not only is he a basketball coach, but he's given back to the game that he loves.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And he was a player in that area at Emerson College before going on into a coaching career.
Put back sticks.
A lot of these coaches, former players or prior coaching experience within the G League and have gone from one team to the next. So it's definitely a big network down here in Orlando.
White says, why not? Unable to connect. Gets it right back and can't hit the second try either. Well, Tyler Cook with the first bucket of the second half. He's got 7 and 7, but thus far in the bubble entering today have been just fantastic. One of the Stars thus far averaging the 28, 10, and 6.5.
I think he could be a little bit more aggressive. I saw 1 or 2 times in the first half where he had a great drive, and I thought he had a path to the rim, but he was too unselfish and kicked it out. You've been putting up 28 points per game. You've proven yourself as a scorer. Let's see if he's a little bit more aggressive in the offense in the second half.
Down the lane, taking some contact, doesn't go for Wigington, but this time Lindell Wigington with the stick back. Salt Lake City.
Good sportsmanship there right after picking up his opponent. You like to see things like that.
You know what, Kim? Talking with Andre Ingram earlier this week, G League legend, he said a scout is watching everything, especially those types of things. How do you conduct yourself?
Absolutely. Body language. Do you sprint back after turning it over? What's your attitude like when you go back to the bench after missing your last 3 shots? They are looking at much more than the stats on the page. Andre is, if anybody knows that, it's Andre. It's just really awesome perspective to have him on some of these games.
White through some traffic. Tom the Wolves. Burst of speed. Great ball movement here and an opportunity. Here's Wigington coming off a base. Lindell Wigington. Hesitation. Lindell Wigington starting to heat up. Nathan Peavy calls a timeout in anger because he can sense perhaps the wave's changing, KA.
Yeah, Iowa.
Happened to us before, earlier this week, that they are capable of a comeback, and now starting to find some footing, particularly defensively. John Fanta, Kim Adams with you. This one at the field house. And that's a 3 that's needed on the timeout, courtesy of Trey Scott.
I love that action, John. They had a high screen and roll at the top of the key that just kind of gets that help defender to forget about their own player. And Trey Scott just ready to shoot in the corner.
Or he can't connect. Farrell pulls. Yogi Ferrell, unlimited range.
That is some confidence there, and you could just tell he has a little more pep in his step today, just because the team as a whole is playing so well together, and they're kind of lifting each other up, that he can confidently step into that shot knowing he's going to make it.
Turning the words of pride into results. He said, we got to play with more pride. Got to play with more of a ticker. Now Farrell with the catch. That was halfway down. Behind the back move. A foul on White.
Salt Lake City not happy with that one. They thought it was a clean jump ball. Let's take another look. Trier looking to make something happen. Oh yeah, he got him on the arm. Can't really complain about that one, Paul White. He had his lock on the arm.
I think Alonzo Trier's story is as special as you're going to see. He didn't really have a father figure in his life growing up. His mom, Marcy, such an inspiration. And Kim, when he was in 6th grade, he was diagnosed with dyslexia. He was kicked off a varsity team in 8th grade for being, quote, too good and just being different. And Alonzo Trier has taken that on and now helping other youth, but takes on that idea that, you know what? You can call me whatever you want to call me. I'm going to overcome it. And that's what he has always, always done.
Absolutely, and that's what he's doing here in the bubble. I mean, he went undrafted out of Arizona and then had 2 really solid years with the Knicks. I mean, just me being from New York, I remember following the team, and they were just struggling to score, and then they brought in Alonzo Trier, and it just seemed like he could score whenever he wanted to. So unfortunately, he was waived from the team. So you said, I mean, he kind of has that, I'm going to make it no matter what. So he is out here trying to make his way back to the league.
Stay with the Wolves. You just think, Kim, of the idea that you get kicked off of a varsity team. Now look here. Here is Trier. And what was going through his mind, potentially, as we get a whistle on the other end of the floor. Let's see what this is about. It's on Tyler's foot. Kim, I can only imagine what was going through Trier's mind. You know, we've talked to players before who have said, hey, when we were growing up, you know, sometimes for our skill level, we actually might have gotten excluded from other groups or just not welcome to a certain team. And it takes a certain mentality. Trier had to kind of overcome that.
Right, and it's tough to grapple at such a young age, you know, probably 13, 14 years old to have to go through something like that.
We got a timeout. Salt Lake City up by 27. Day 4 in the bubble on ESPN+.
Everybody's invited to have a meal together.
Is correct.
I'm still, I still got to fully learn my NBA G League rules, but as you know, John, as the daughter of an official, I am always trying to be up on all my rules, so bear with me as I'm continuing to learn these new G League rules.
Legendary Big Game Bob Adams, your dad, officiated many big college games through the years. Now a kick out to Wigington, who buries it. Cook to Wigington.
Nice look by Wigington, but just was going to go off that, John. These officials here, let's not forget, are also looking to create a path to the NBA. So, you know, they're going to review everything they need to review. They are being evaluated as well, and they're going to call the game as they're being judged on. What are they calling, what are they not calling? So these officials also here to try and get to the NBA.
Barry was stripped by Trey Scott. So Trey Scott with a tray, now a strip, and off that take, Miller can't hit. Zylan Cheatham, crossover. Zylan Cheatham, that was pretty to the 10.
And Cheatham's somebody who's been pretty quiet in this game, John. We haven't really seen him do much. He's a player that they should try and get more involved, get him to be a little bit more aggressive, because he's somebody who was a two-way player last year with the Pelicans, has appeared in a couple NBA games, but somebody who should be capable of putting up big numbers.
Well, you just think of the complexity between these two teams offensively, and Salt Lake City has 4 in double figures. It's been a well-oiled machine. The lead scorer for Iowa was in 10. That's Wigington, as we got a foul downstairs. Bay was on the take. And that just goes back to it. We keep bringing up, hey, he's been relatively quiet. He's been relatively quiet. Waiting for somebody to get going.
And there's a nice read there into Bay. And the interior defense certainly needs a little bit of work for Iowa. And it's not just the post players inside, the forwards. It's how are you defending screen and rolls? Because that was a slip of a screen. So somebody was in the wrong position and somebody wasn't there to step in to help. So, you know, we mentioned the challenges of this group still coming together, but defense is something that takes a lot of time to build chemistry on that end. So that is something that Iowa's going to have to try and come together relatively quickly in this G League season.
3 short for Charlie Brown Jr. I'll go back to the Stars. John Fanta, Kim Adams with you from the field house, day 4 of this NBA G League bubble season. And it's been the Stars who have really commanded this game by not shooting. Trey Scott, Trayvon Blewett combining for triples. Mike Scott with 4 of his own. Mike Scott 4 of 5. Now in transition, that one falls for Bay. And on the other end, a jam for Zylan Cheatham.
And that's the first time I've seen Iowa really look to push a break off of a made basket. They just had the awareness to get the ball up quickly and catch Salt Lake City off guard a little bit.
Just 4 fast break points, to your point. Only 10 combined in this game. And Salt Lake City's talked about defending better, Kim. Perhaps that's what they needed to maybe slow the tempo down, get back to details.
Right, well, I think Salt Lake City today has just been so effective in their half-court defense. So, you know, they haven't really had to get out and run because they've really run their sets well, moved the ball, gotten teammates open.
Murphy with the foul. Stayed to the free throw line.
That's his third foul. On the line for the Stars. Shooting 1 for 2.
So the 23-year-old Tyler Bay. Las Vegas native, went to Colorado, was a second-round pick, 36th overall, as you were talking about, with the Dallas Mavericks situation. Tyler, a fascinating player, 12-9 today. Pull-up tray is off. Malcolm Miller, the pride of Holy Cross, Patriot League. Now the drive and the reverse is good. He has been all stars. Tyler Bay again.
It's just been so easy for them in the half court.
Yeah.
Iowa just hasn't really taken anything away. They've let Salt Lake City completely dictate on the offensive end to get whatever they want.
Murphy unable to connect. Swung back. Pull up 3 is good. Kari Tucker. Well, Iowa's only shot 25% from 3, 7 to 28. Tucker getting on the board, his second made field goal. They just have had nobody, and Kim, we've seen this in the comebacks where somebody just turns on the light switch and gets into a heat check situation. They haven't had that in this game.
Right, I think we're still just missing that overall energy level and kind of just coming together as a team in a moment of adversity like this and not really helping pick each other up or try and, you know, fire somebody up. But Salt Lake City has just gotten out and run. Tyler Bay, the two-way player for Dallas, has been impressive. And you know that his coaching staff in Dallas is probably paying close attention. It's a great opportunity to come down here and get a bunch of reps and try and improve and then head back to the NBA.
We'll go back to the Stars. You think about it. What Rick Carlisle's done with the Mavericks, he's one of the very best. And Dallas has done a nice job of drafting Kim and bringing in different pieces along the way. The upside of that organization, and it's seen through a talent like Bay.
Right, and teams are looking to bring in players who fit their style. And looks like we are... Oh, we're back to play. But yeah, teams are helping players develop with how they want them to succeed in their style. So I'm sure they gave him a couple things to think about down at the bubble where he's not necessarily playing with a Mavericks team, but I'm sure they gave him some things they'd like him to do well.
Dave Murphy has been one of the positives in his G League bubble debut. The hoop and the foul.
Yeah, he's shown the ability to add that energy that I think the Wolves are looking for. And sometimes it's hard as a rookie. This is his first game in the bubble to kind of take over that role. But in just a few flashes that we've seen from him today, he's got a motor on him, and we mentioned the Minnesota native. He's really excited about this opportunity. So he is somebody who's really going to cherish every minute he's in the game.
Tell me, your first game on a team, maybe college, high school, like you're walking in the gym that day, like Murphy's walking in today. What is going through your gut?
Yeah, I was, Trayvon blew it right back at it. But, yeah, I made the team, the varsity team, pretty young in high school. I was actually pulled up midway through 8th grade. So you're definitely nervous. You know, you've got seniors and juniors who are probably questioning, why is this 8th grader being pulled up to the team and maybe taking our spot. So you kind of come in with a quiet confidence, try and just add what you can to the team, and then start to have them trust you a little bit.
Foul on the take here on Trier, who's in a bit of disbelief. So what you're saying is you were just talented than everybody else your age.
No, I was naturally athletic. My swimming genes very much helped translate to my basketball game.
Quick 30-second timeout called by Sam.
Some may want somebody who can protect the rim. So you just kind of have to hone into your talents and see and prove what can I contribute to a team overall.
One free throw for 2 points there. Lead back to 21. Charlie Brown Jr. has been quiet. Charlie Brown Jr. off here. Murphy with the offensive rebound. He gets fouled. And that's an area, Kim, that you've been talking about.
Yeah, Jordan Murphy, again, I had to double take at his size and his stats on the rebounding end. He's 6'6", which is, big, but right there going up against Romaro Gill, who's 7'2" and comes down with the rebound. And there's a reason he's second all time in the Big Ten for rebounding. That's just a sheer will to want to go after the ball.
Just an incredible note. Miller from way downtown. Malcolm Miller. Hello.
That was smooth. He's been a little quiet here today, John. He's somebody who has some NBA experience. He's been with the Raptors the last couple of seasons, actually has an NBA championship ring to prove for. But he's been a little quiet today, but he is somebody with a ton of experience, probably one of the older guys on this team or in the G League bubble altogether. But he's just a complete player. 5-second difference between shot and game clock. Trier off the Murphy screen.
Greer with the kick. Pull up is long for Tucker. They got 5 seconds to work here. Malcolm Miller's been quiet, but starting to get loud. Gives it off here to beat the buzzer. Just short for White. The Salt Lake City Stars looking for their first win of this 2021 bubble campaign. And everything's resolved. And Coach Beebe said, Stars organization hinges on defense. Well, through 2 games, they had allowed 117 and 118. They've cleaned things up today with plays like that.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a little bit happier. Well, obviously, we still have a long way to go, as we've seen in this league, but they're on track to give nowhere near that 117-18 mark that they've given up in the past 2 games.
On the flip side for Iowa, they opened things up on opening day of bubble play. A really good game with Long Island. They fell 131 to 128, but you feel encouraged. Then they build a lead against Agua Caliente. They give up a 20-point advantage and fall 96-94, and you feel like today's been some of the after effects of what happened to them yesterday. Pull-up 3 is short for Mike Scott.
Yeah, it's tough to be on the cusp of 2 victories and then not even 24 hours later have to turn around and play. That'll get it going a little bit. We've seen some stretches where they've taken better shots and knocked down from 3. They just unfortunately have built themselves into such a deep hole in that first half.
Trayvon Blewett, just short. He's got 4 threes, 15 points off the bench. Murky, the heat check attempt, but Iowa retains possession here.
And again, John, is that the best shot you want to take right now? Really, one pass and put up a 3. That's a better look. Attack, drive, get to the rim.
Salt Lake City letting Tucker go all the way to the cup. Now you got a 19-point affair. They've strung together a couple of stops in a row. Charlie Brown Jr. inside to Murphy, who took the foul from Farrell, and just like that, Jordan Murphy will get 1 shot for 2 points. They can get it down to 17.
Man, I was just looking at the free throw numbers, John, because when you're struggling from the outside, you want to get to the free throw line, and up to this point, they'd only had 6 attempts compared to 12 for Salt Lake City. So that time they space out the floor, isolate their post player inside, and get an opportunity for that 1 free throw, but can't convert.
A clock issue here that they're resolving. I always like to look at this, Kim, in a game like this. You got 10-10 to go, 19-point game. How would you play it out? And as a player, do you think about that when you look at the scoreboard? Are you thinking, hey, can we get it down to 10 by 6 minutes left, 5 minutes left?
So you're saying if I were on Iowa?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at it just 1 possession at a time, honestly, and trying to string together multiple stops, because that's the first thing you have to do is start locking down on defense. But yeah, you do kind of get that in your head. Let's get it to 10. Let's get it to single digits and just kind of keep it rolling from there. But it starts by just having a little bit more pride, as a term we heard Salt Lake City use coming into this game. But just having that pride on that end to trust your teammates that everyone's going to lock in and get a stop.
Kick out pass for the 3. Dakari Tucker starting to sizzle a little bit. His second tray. The Wolves looking to creep their way back in. Trayvon Blewett just off. Here comes Iowa again. Tucker starting to catch fire. That would have been big, but an extra opportunity now.
And that's why that 3 is okay when everybody sprints up the floor, because you have rebounders in place.
And now Tucker with 2-man action. And the Wolves don't look now, but within 18, a little bit of life here out of them, the most that we've seen in this game. That's a point-blank, wide-open dunk.
Salt Lake City has been really impactful with those top-of-the-key ball screens, and the guards have done a really good job of reading it and making the right play.
Tucker foul going up. That was Tyler Bay.
Yeah, Tyler Bay just setting that screen, and then both defenders sticking with the ball handler, and just kind of an easy slip, hard cut to the rim for Bay.
Tyler Bay, 16 points to lead the way off the bench. Has really put together an interesting showing as the officials are looking at something here. We had a bit of a scoring discrepancy, and that's corrected. So Dakari Tucker, that makes Iowa 5 for 8 from the stripe today. Blew it with the give off to Trey Scott, who buries it. Trey Scott.
He has been really impressive, John, and that's another interesting teammate duo right there, because you have Trayvon Blewett from Xavier kicking off to Trey Scott from Cincinnati, and I don't know if there is a more heated rivalry in college hoops than that. We have been to a couple of those crosstown shootouts, and there is no love lost between those two teams.
None. They do not like each other.
I would love to see kind of how that first meeting went for Trey and Trey.
Now Trey Scott missing short there.
I know people will say Duke and UNC. Obviously, we know that one, but if you have a chance to attend a crosstown shootout in Cincinnati, I highly recommend.
Well, there's crosstown, there's Skyline Chili on the line whenever the crosstown shootout happens in Cincinnati. Natives love it. That one flips home for a day Murky. Murky's had a good day with 13 points.
Yeah, he's had an impressive opener. I think, like we said, just not trying to do too much, taking his shots where he has them, playing hard.
10 on the timer. Farrell with the kickoff to Trey Scott. Cook with the give. Extra pass, Charlie Brown Jr. And now the Iowa Wolves are 9 for 35 from distance. Scott with the pass here. Stars in a bit of a drought themselves. It'll go back to the Wolves. And a timeout. Salt Lake City Stars.
We made USAA insurance for this season. When being a fan on a budget gets tough.
Only a 3-star recruit out of Las Vegas High School. But he just took that as motivation. Actually hung it on the wall and kept thinking to himself, you know what, I can overcome that. And he has now an opportunity here that he's making the most of in a reserve role. As that one falls for Lindell Wigington. He's got 12. You know, Kim, it just shows you it doesn't matter how many stars are next to your name in the recruiting ranks. It really doesn't. We see so many cases of it here.
Right. I mean, there's a ton even in this game. Amaro Gill coming from junior college. Mike Scott on Salt Lake City starting off at a junior college. I think this is where you see the most of those success stories and why some players in the G League go on to be successful NBA players, because they've always had to work extra hard to get to that next step.
White off the dribble. Paul White. Points for White. He had an interesting college journey. Started at Georgetown, transferred to Anna Altman in Oregon. And that's an offensive foul on Trey Scott.
Another look at Paul White, who's so mobile and agile for his size, John, at 6'9". He can really play inside and out. He has guard skills. We haven't seen it too much today, but in their last game, he was involved a lot in pick and pop action and has the ability to knock it down from three.
The size and spacing of Paul White really helped Salt Lake City last year. They won the Winter Showcase in Las Vegas. White joined the team, and Nathan Peavy telling me earlier this week just how vital he was. Tyler Bay's been vital all day. He's got 18.
Salt Lake City, 30 wins last season, most in team history, and they do have a bunch of those pieces back, and that's why I was a little perplexed by that 0-2 start. But I think we're starting to see what this team is capable this afternoon. Let's take another look. Wigington. Ooh, that looked clean there. I did think he hit him with the body earlier on the drive, but it looks like they didn't call it until the shot attempt.
There's that free throw stroke from Canyon Barry, Kim. That's old school.
We finally got it. I was wondering if we were going to get it.
Yogi
Looks
Ferrell
like
technical.
Yeah, the technical must have come from somewhere else, because Yogi Ferrell is not even on the floor right now.
He had 30 wins for the Stars last year, and Martin Schiller, the G League Coach of the Year, now Peavy taking over for him. Bart Taylor, VP of Basketball Operations for the Salt Lake City Stars, named Executive of the Year. They just oversaw a number of different rising stars. It was first 30-win season in 12 years. Really remarkable.
On the line for the Wolves.
Foul on Bay. Nobody in foul trouble really in this one. It's been a commanding performance by the Salt Lake City Stars. After two blowout losses, you can sense they were fired up from the get-go, defending at a totally different level. You almost see the traits of the organization that we saw last year in a performance like this.
Without a doubt, but I do think we've also seen much improved offense and defense from Iowa in the second half, which is really important after two tough losses. They looked pretty flat, no energy in that first half. You want to at least feel good about your performance when you leave this game, knowing that, you know, the next game is in a day or two. You don't want to feel discouraged and feel like we didn't leave it all out there. So it has been a good sign to see a little more energy. A player like a Dave Murphy, who hustled for that play but unfortunately stepped on the sideline. But he's been a nice addition. We mentioned him having to miss the first two games. He's definitely brought a spark to this team.
White pulls. Worth this time. Well, for these two teams, Salt Lake City and Iowa will both get the day off tomorrow. Salt Lake City back in action Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, taking on the Memphis Hustle. Iowa's next game comes against G League Ignite, 3:30 on Monday. Three switched home from distance. Malcolm Miller. The gym is this guy's range.
Yeah, he's got a smooth touch for a 6'7" wing player, somebody who can really do it all: score, rebound, blocks, knock down from three.
Signed an Exhibit 10 contract with the Jazz back in December. Final 3 minutes here at the Fieldhouse. Reminder, we got another one, 7:30 Eastern Time. Westchester and Santa Cruz. Put back 6 for Yogi Ferrell. And a timeout. Sam Newman back. And Iowa. Adams, I'm putting you on the spot here.
Oh, gosh.
Your Kim Adams shining star of the game here at the Fieldhouse is?
Ooh, I didn't know what was coming after that question. I can handle that one. For me, it's Tyler Bay. He who has had a great debut here with Salt Lake City, the two-way player for the Mavs, has a double-double, 18 points, 11 rebounds, has been efficient from the floor, 7 of 13, and I like his presence on the floor. He works hard, he defends. I think this has been a great showing for him and his second team now in the G League bubble in just a couple of days.
Offensive board just rims out. They get a third opportunity. Charlie Brown Jr. placing it in. Back to Iowa. Well, look, I wasn't going to put, the only thing I would put you on the spot from this afternoon is that you had the ultimate pre-Valentine's Day tease by saying you were munching on some chocolate-covered pretzels, and because we're working virtually, you're unable to share any.
I mean, that is one of the perks of having my setup right next door to my kitchen. So sometimes you get a little hungry at halftime. You need a fuel to carry on for those last 24 minutes. That was today's choice.
Charlie Brown Jr. with 5 straight. This is the closest Iowa has been since the first quarter. That's how much in control the Stars have been.
Right, but there was much better flow to the offense from Iowa. Defense still needs some cleaning up, communication, rotations, but they did get a little bit more ball movement, I thought, offensively in the second half.
Mr. Nathan Peavy, as we look at the Stars head coach now. 30-second timeout for the Wolves. What have you liked the most about this performance if you're Coach Peavy?
I think their offense has been pretty outstanding.
Gets on the board in a thriller. 2 good games at Advent Health Arena. And to come tonight on ESPN Plus, Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Daishen Nix. You're going to want to tune in for that one. 7 Eastern Time, they'll take on Raptors 9:05 right here on ESPN Plus. NBA G League action, day 4 of a basketball buffet over these 3 weeks and change in Lake Buena Vista. I've absolutely loved the @NBA G League Twitter content. Shout out to Jenny Fisher for everything that she has done with her team. It's been some really cool looks. They had a look at the Ignite practice last weekend. That was awesome. There's a dunk off the steal. Ade Murky. Positives to take from this performance.
But yeah, shout out to Jenny as we were starting to prepare for this season that was just coming together in the last couple of weeks when the G League decided to move forward. It's been really helpful to just see some of these background stories and features from the people like Jenny who are on the ground in the bubble.
Well, Yogi Ferrell just received his 2nd technical foul, and he's been tossed.
Oh, no. And again, he got that, the first one he got, he was on the bench as well. So
Wow.
that's just something you don't want to happen when you're down here in the bubble trying to make your way back to the league. Just kind of let your play speak for itself.
Someone who's a veteran of 251 NBA games. And for Yogi Ferrell, he heads out. But for the Salt Lake City Stars, about to grab their first win, Malcolm Miller. And showing us some range off this time. Charlie Brown Jr. is fouled. Like we said with these two teams, Salt Lake City will not play tomorrow. They'll be back in action Monday. They'll be taking on Memphis, 11 a.m. Eastern time. That will be right here on ESPN Plus. And for Iowa, they will meet G League Ignite, 3:30 Eastern time on Monday.
Looks like Coach maybe trying to figure out what happened on those 2 technicals for Yogi Ferrell from the bench.
Sure. By the way, that Iowa Ignite game Monday, for you Wolves fans, that will be on ESPNU on Monday afternoon. Oops. On TV, as the time ticks down, Salt Lake City dominates this one from tip to buzzer. The Stars notch their first win.
And it was a nice bounce back for Salt Lake City, John. It obviously had to start with defense. They'd given up nearly 120 points in those first 2 games.